Hey guys, Theron Asbury here with Revital Outdoors, bringing you another exciting podcast. Tonight we're going to do another bonus podcast. We're going to preview Grand Lake in Grove, Oklahoma for RedCrest happening next week. That's the Major League Fishing Championship event that's happening. Very, very excited to be there. Again, Revital Outdoors will be at the Outdoor Sports Expo. Come by and see us. Our booth number is 2214. Really looking forward to meeting everybody in Oklahoma, talking about our premium CBD products. So make sure you do that. Tonight we're going to interview Mr. Chris Torkelson. This guy and I go way, way back. Back in 2009 when I was just 16 years old and started tournament fishing, this was my very first boater I ever had. And just so you know how things happen, I drew him out on Grand Lake. I didn't catch a fish all day long. I think I caught a couple short fish. I had one rod that had a 60-pound braid on it, throwing crankbaits and spinnerbaits. I talked way too much. So he's been there. He's done that. But Chris is a phenomenal angler in Oklahoma. He's won several BFL tournaments and other team tournaments on Grand Lake. He's got a great resume from Grand. He's qualified for the BFL All-American, been to numerous regionals with BFL. So just an all-around great Oklahoma angler. We're going to pick his brain tonight about Grand Lake and what he predicts for RedCrest happening next week. Before we get started, as always, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you get notified when all of our content is dropping. And check us out on Facebook and Instagram. That's going to be Revital Outdoors. So very excited for this podcast. Let's go ahead and bring him in from the Tulsa area of Oklahoma, Mr. Chris Torkelson. How you doing, bud?
Man, I'm doing good. Thanks. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Good to see you again, man. I know you've got a long history of tournament fishing, and you've done really great for yourself all around the country, really. But you really shine there in the state of Oklahoma. But tell us a little bit about Grand Lake and why does it click for you? And it seems like you can catch them from spring to fall and really well in the springtime mainly.
You know, Grand is it's, you know, the thing I like about Grand, you can do a lot of different things. So it allows a person to fish to different strengths. So I think that's why you can see, you know, people successful. They don't have to necessarily, you know, be really good at, say, finesse fishing. You know, you can do extremely well and compete, you know, if you're a shallow water guy, but at the same time, if you're more of a deep guy, I mean, you know, Grand offers that up for you too. So you can go down lake, fish out, you know, fish where it's a little bit clear water. So it's not one of those lakes, you know, sometimes you go to a lake and you feel like you just have to adjust to everything there. And I think, you know, Grand just offers a lot of different things that you can do and be successful. It doesn't just curtail to a certain angler or a certain technique. You can do a lot of different things. And the other side of it too is it's got quality fish from the bottom to the top. I mean, I can run up the river and catch 20 pounds. I can run to the bottom end of the lake and catch 20 pounds. And you can compete, you know, both ways. I mean, you know, you don't have to be stuck to one end to be successful.
Right. That's especially true in a normal situation. I know the last couple of years and the last couple of championship events that we've seen on Grand Lake, including the Bassmaster Classic, everything is kind of normal unless there's a day that's sunny and bluebird sky and no wind, or there's been a lot of rain and it gets muddy. But honestly, that mud, sometimes it can really improve the lake. And I know there's a lot of dirty water anglers that are going to probably, especially next week, there's going to be a lot of anglers want to target that dirty water and run up the Elk River and Neosho.
Yeah, no, and there's, you know, we haven't quite got our spring rains yet to what I would say really get it muddy, but it's got a little bit of color. You know, they've had some recent snow up here about a week, probably, I guess it's been a little over a week ago. You know, obviously some rain coming into that. And so they've had, you know, some of that has helped stir up the water. And just traditionally from wind will definitely stir up some areas. And we've had plenty of that lately. There's no question. So, you know, so it's definitely allowed some of that to circulate through and definitely, like I said, make some areas stay, you know, where it would still have a little bit of color to it and not quite clear up. But at the same time, you know, it'll kind of surprise you. You know, like I said, you get a little bit of a rain and then they start to pull water. Well, all of a sudden now maybe Wolf Creek becomes clear, then maybe halfway down the lake. And because all that color starts pulling down. So that's something else, you know, as we get some of these rains and as the water pulls down, it definitely filters out some, but it'll make, you know, I've seen the bottom end have more color and it allows you to fish shallower than maybe mid lake just because it has how it pushes through and you know, gets pulled down.
Absolutely. Do you suspect next week there'll be a lot of anglers that go down lake and target that clear water? You know, I'm talking like Horse Creek, Honey Creek, Duck Creek, that area.
You know, I would suspect that, you know, you should see a lot of people from, like I said, like you said, Horse Creek, mid-lake down. You know, when the lake gets really, really tough, you happen to see a lot of people fish up to catch fish. And like you mentioned earlier, the elk. And we kind of seen that, like you mentioned, the classic. Edwin went way up the river, up Neosho, had a good day, but then he went up the elk the other day. Where right now there's a lot of fish coming basically from bottom to top. Some people that I know that have fished some recent tournaments that, speaking of team tournaments, large team tournaments, Nichols, that draws like 250, Skeeter, I think they just drew 150 last weekend. I know guys that did well fishing down, and I know guys that did well fishing mid and in numbers too. So it's not just an area. I think they've really, the lake is starting to warm up, and I think the fishing, is definitely on the upside of Grand for as early as it is. I just think that the quality of fish in there right now, I mean, every lake goes through a cycle. I mean, you talked about this the other day, they all go through cycles at time. And I think right now Grand's always been good. Never, don't want to take away that, but Grand is way up on its cycle right now. I mean, from numbers and size, I mean, it's crazy what you're seeing for early weights right now.
Right. I was actually talking to a buddy of mine back in Oklahoma. He lives in Afton, which is right just outside of the Grove area, and he fishes the BFLs. And right now he's fishing the Central Division and the Toyotas. But he told me that he predicts next week we've got a moon coming in, and we've got warm weather coming in, and that can really factor things very quickly on Grand Lake in a matter of just overnight. He suspects right now, if everything holds the way it is, that somebody could conceivably catch 100 fish on the final day on that Sunday.
Well, something I was looking because I wasn't sure what their stipulation was, and I was noticing that and I'm assuming it's for every day, that they're going to do 2 pounds as a minimum scoreable fish for this event. So this time of year, that's going to be a solid 14-inch fish, because they're going to be, a lot healthier than normal. So you catch a 14-inch fish, they're definitely going to, weigh that 2 pound mark.
Yeah, they're going to be 2 pounds.
Right. So you're going to figure a keeper. So I know guys, like I said, right now that are catching somewhere between 15 and 20 keepers a day as a team, in weighing anywhere from 17, 18, 19 pounds. A lot of fish being caught around that 2.5 pound range. I just think it's from a few years ago, just the way it's worked in the spawn. It was really, really good. And then all of a sudden you'll get that 4 pounder that'll, bump you a pound and a half, and then you catch another or 4 or 5, and then it jumps you, 2 pounds. And, those better bites is what's going to move up. Would you catch 100 in a day? Man, that's a lot. I've had some really good days up there. But there's no question I could see these guys, and like I said, we're talking water temps in the mid 40s these last few weeks, maybe upper 40s in some pockets. And guys are catching, 15 to 20 keepers. Mm-hmm. So would it, I could see it definitely being 40, could they catch 40 scoreable fish in a day? I think it's definitely possible. Like I said, when you start talking about, over 2 pounds, they'll catch a lot more than that, won't keep, but, they'll definitely catch. I could see the numbers increasing way up. I mean, I kind of went back and looked and kind of give you an idea. So both the Nichols and the Skeeter, the last couple of weeks, they both have had right about 5 stringers right around the 20-pound mark or better. Mm-hmm. But yet there were 35 stringers over 15 pounds in the Nichols. Now, granted, they had 100 more boats. And then there was 25 stringers over 15 pounds in the Skeeter. So, you're talking about 25 out of 150. That's a pretty good number of teams catching 15 pounds or better, 3 pound average. And that goes back to what I was talking about. There's so many 2.5 pound, what I'd say 2 8s, 2 9s, 2 10s, and all of a sudden, boom, you catch a 4 pounder or you catch a 5 pounder. Before 2.5 pounders, 10 pounds, you're throwing a 5 pounder. Now you're at 15 pounds. And that's what's happening. Well, then now you catch another 5 pounder and you just jump to 17.5 pounds. And you're getting 2 or 3 of those big bites. So the numbers are definitely there. And I could see somebody catching a lot. And I did look at the weather also in the full moon. It's funny you bring that up. So the full moon is Friday, 18th. Mm-hmm. And from what I can see on the extended forecast, it is Oklahoma, so it can change. But,
yeah.
But not a lot of rain, so I don't suspect it's going to be a willow deal. I don't think they're going to be up in the bushes. That's not going to be what's going to be happening. But no, the lowest temperature I saw was like 45 in the next week, with highs anywhere from 68 to 75. So there could definitely be a huge move up to the bank in the pockets. Could they go as far as going to the bed? Maybe towards the end. I mean, it wouldn't be a lot. It wouldn't be something I would chase. But if I saw one, I would darn sure stop and just see, how aggressive it is.
I predict there's going to be some cruisers at least. I mean, somebody's going to be going down the bank, throwing a spinnerbait, crankbait, or whatever, and they're going to look over and they're going to say, "There's a 3-pounder cruising," and it's going to be a male. He's just and he's probably just up there, looking. Who knows?
Correct.
But and I really think this is going to turn into a reaction tournament. I think some strong suited guys. You got Kevin Van Dam, who has made a living with a spinnerbait and a crankbait in his hand, and I mean he's got a lot of great success on Grand Lake. I think someone like Greg Vinson, he's a big cranker and a lipless guy out of the state of Alabama. Jordan Lee, crankbait guy. Edwin Evers, crankbait guy. Yeah. Zach Burge. I think the guys that are going to be cranking and throwing a spinnerbait are going to be very pleased this next week.
No, I think you're going to see a lot of square bill fish. I think you're going to see a lot of spinnerbait fish, as you mentioned, a lot of bladed jig fish. Especially if the wind blows. And like I said, we've had a lot of wind already this year. If that wind blows, that spinnerbait bite will definitely even get better, and will help some of these pockets even warm, even quicker. So I don't see, guys just happen to slow down, which is also going to go to, what you're talking about by numbers. I mean, if you're going to keep moving and you're cruising down the bank with a square bill, like I said, or spinnerbait, there's no question that the numbers are going to go up, because if they're moving back, they're active. You don't have to slow down. We've all been in those tournaments where if you're not fishing slow, you're not getting bites. I don't foresee that at all. You're going to see a lot of fish caught, and probably some really, really good fish. No question about it. So,
I think we're going to see an 8-pounder this next week. I really do.
Well, I tell you what, I live out on Keystone, and there was 2 7s caught Sunday. So that's not normal. So yes, the big ones are showing up.
I think someone will trip into an 8-pounder. I do have to ask, if you were in this tournament, let's say you were just putting some rods on the deck, let's say 3 baits that you would definitely have in your arsenal, what would they be? But under one condition, Chris, these have to be baits that are still made today, because I've seen your boat. I know you're a speed trap guy. So 3 baits that are still made today that you would go out there and fish with next week.
You mean the old Wigglewort? No.
I've seen those in your boat too.
So, no, I mean, it's going to be hard pressed. I would have a booyah spinnerbait tied on with a pulse trailer behind it, without a doubt. That is going to play, I think, so much. Between that and, like I said, in throwing a square bill, I would, if you get some wind, I'm going to throw something with a little bit of color, probably black and yellow. That's what I would prefer to start with, maybe, but also red. I would, I do like red early this time of year. So that would be the 2 I would have color wise. But, I would basically have a spinnerbait square bill and then something to flip with, because you're going to come across, wood that you're going to want to flip into. It'll be a deal where they're going to throw a spinnerbait on the end of a log, catch one, and probably grab, whatever that, angler's favorite flipping bait is, and turn around and flip back up there. It should be a lot of fun. Like I said, they're going to catch a lot of numbers. These fish are moving up. There's not going to be a lot of slowing down. At least I wouldn't be. And that's, like I said, the lake is down. I mentioned that. It's not up. So I think if a guy was smart and spent some time looking in some areas where some logs had gotten drifted up that are laying, going into these corners of these spawning bays, I would be targeting them without a doubt. And again, your square bill and spinnerbait is going to play right into that, on those logs. So.
Right. I remember one BFL tournament that we fished in 2000. It was the year after I drew. I think it was 2010 or 2011. I drew out with a guy that we both know named Travis McKelvey.
Yep.
And he had an 8-foot. I'll never forget it because I never even knew something like this existed. He had an 8-foot flipping stick with braid on and a big weight, and it was pretty much a big flipping setup that you would like think going after a hydrilla and all that. And one of the things that he did after about 2 o'clock when the sun got high, it warmed that water up a little bit, a few degrees from that morning cold spell, is he went and literally flipped wood, punched wood, if you will. And I mean, he called every single fish that he had caught that day. I mean, he ended up with an 18-pound bag. That's just there. So you are right. I mean, Grand, it doesn't really get known as a wood lake, but when it gets that flooded timber up in the back of these pockets, them fish are going to be back up in there.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I'll tell you something else that I like when it, and, you know, I use it a lot during, you know, throughout the year. And I don't know, just me for preference. I usually like the water temp to get over 50. Obviously with the water, you know, with the weather we got coming in, the water's going to get over 50. Mm-hmm. But I like throwing a biffle bug up there a lot. Grand is a really, really good biffle bug lake. And the nice part about that, it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. You're not slowing down. I mean, me personally, I like to throw the 3/4 ounce, 11/16, even if it's in 6 inches of water, and I throw it up there, and I'm basically reeling it like a spinnerbait,
burning it.
And I'm going to use it the same thing on those corners going into those spawning bays, especially if maybe I've came into an area that I've got a couple bites. I'll turn around and I'll pick up that bug, and I'll throw that bug out through there, and usually can pick some up. And especially if the wind isn't blowing, it's you can cover a lot of water, and catch a lot of fish. And you don't have to slow down.
Right. I do have one question before we let you go, related to Grand Lake, and it's something that I know a lot of anglers are going to wonder if it's going to factor. What's your thoughts on the dock, the dock pattern?
So, there's always fish on docks. I mean, mm-hmm. No question. There's some that always live there. Typically, if I'm fishing into, like I said, say I'm moving into a spawning bay and I'll fish the area, I'm going to hit the first few docks just to see if they've started to move in there to stage around them or what. Well, I just sit there and target them. I mean, there's times in the fall, that it's a little different deal. I'm literally I don't even spend time between the docks. They get on them that much. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to be to that level. Obviously most people that's fished Grand Lake, there's a ton of docks. A lot of those docks have brush on them. Whether they're physically on the dock or the brush, that you're still going to be basically flipping that dock to fish the brush. Especially those brush piles that's up underneath the shallow end of the dock, up underneath the walkways, where like I said, I think those fish are going to be sliding up. I think I'd be hard pressed to see them, more than 5 feet with this warm weather. I mean, there's going to be some fish out, but there's going to be the larger numbers, I think, will be 6 foot or less. And like I said, you can start going into these bays, these spawning bays, these walkways that have 3 or 4 feet underneath them with some brush on them. Them fish, that's where they slide up to start to think about doing their spawning thing. Like I said, you've been up there. I know guys that get up and they walk behind those big giant marinas that you can't access by, and there's literally one bed after another behind those docks and underneath the walkways. So they're going to be staging to get to that spot is the way I look at it. So
Right. So yeah, I totally agree with you. So, well, Chris, you gave us a lot of great insight. Really looking forward to the tournament next week. I think Grand's going to really finally show out. We've had 2 classics on the lake, and I never really thought that Grand really showed itself for what its potential. But I think finally the stars aligned where a championship event can really show its potential, especially with the format of catch all you can catch. I think there's going to be a lot of numbers caught. But before we let you go, really appreciate you being on this podcast. I know you fish a lot of tournaments. I know you got a lot of great support in the state of Oklahoma. You got a great family. So anybody you'd like to thank before we get off here?
No, I appreciate you guys having me. It's always a privilege to get to talk about what's going on at Grand. It is hard to believe, as you reminded me, as how old as I'm getting, that you were 16 when I drew you. So
it was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So, that's crazy. So
yeah,
but no, obviously I'm very thankful. I've had a long relationship with Nitro and Mercury. So obviously I couldn't be there, be doing what I do without them. Obviously in Power Poles, been there. Garmin, been with Garmin now for several years. It is just amazing, the electronics with their forward focusing sonar, live scope. It absolutely has changed everything. Obviously I get a big support with Bass Tank. Appreciate all those guys. They do everything. They're first class on their installation. They take care of me on that. Jean LaRue, I've been fortunate to be with Jean LaRue, and obviously I've switched to LureNet, obviously. And so now, not only get the ability to, keep using Jean LaRue that I have since back in 2000. When you asked me about making the All-American, I was throwing Jean LaRue back in 2000. I've been doing it my entire time. So 25 years basically. So, real thankful for that. And obviously the additional, products that they carry, with Booyah and Yum. And so I'm very fortunate on that side. So
good for you, Chris. Well, Chris, good luck to you in your tournament season this year. I know, like I mentioned earlier, you're fishing a lot of tournaments. I think you're going over the state of Arkansas, fishing the Arky Division BFLs this year, try to qualify for that regional on Grand Lake. So hopefully, we see you at another All-American one of these days very soon. I know you're busy with your kids, getting involved with high school fishing. That's absolutely awesome. Love to see you doing that, man. It's great to, I've always said if more dads teach their kid to go out and start fishing, whether it be male or female, they're never going to have money to get themselves in trouble someday. So
there's no doubt.
It's a great sport to get involved in. So thank you for doing that. And man, we look forward to seeing you next week at RedCrest. And just good luck to you and everything that you do this year.
No, thank you so much. And hey, a shout out too to Sean Goodwin. He's doing very well today down at Harris Chain. He was leading earlier. I think he's now sitting in second. So hopefully he can pull off a big one before the end of the day. Sean and I go back a long time. We've traveled many, many tournaments together. Toyotas we've traveled. And so anyway, pulling for him today to pull off that big win down there. It's his rookie year down on the pro circuit. So he's doing an awesome job.
Yeah, I was watching him earlier on the live. He's doing a really fantastic job, and he actually found some juice there in Harris that not a lot of people talk about. So, if there's anybody that's going to reveal it on a camera, Sean's a good person to reveal it. So, for sure. So, a hell of an angler and just another great hammer out of the state of Oklahoma. Again, multiple BFL All-American qualifications. I think Sean even won one.
He won one, yes.
Ohio River. Yeah, that's right. So phenomenal angler. So, well, Chris, thank you again for being on our podcast. From all of us at Revital Outdoors, be sure you come out to the RedCrest Sports Expo next week in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Again, our booth number is 2214. Love to meet everyone in the state of Oklahoma. Going to be very glad to be back in my home roots, in my home state, and see everyone again. Got a lot of friends and family I'm going to catch up with while I'm back there. So, be sure, again, you subscribe to our YouTube channel before you get off here. And as always, God bless. Be safe out there. We'll talk to everyone on the very next podcast.
All right. Thank you, sir, man. Have a good one.